Hey. So I wanted to share something with y'all that I feel like is so encouraging, and I hope it encourages y'all because it definitely has encouraged me. So I am in Judges, and I was reading the story of Gideon, and Gideon, was just doing his work, and they said he was threshing the wheat in the wine press. And as he was doing that, an angel of the Lord came down and said that, Gideon, you are a great warrior. And Gideon is questioning the angel of the Lord, like, what do you mean I'm a great warrior? Where is God? I felt like he abandoned us. Our father said that he done some of these great things, and I'm not seeing it. And so the angel is like, you are a great warrior. You have, go in the strength that you have, right? And so Gideon is like, going back and forth with the angel of the Lord until, he gets to a point and he's like, okay, this is something, that I can do, because he said, let me go ahead and get a sacrifice. So he went, he got a sacrifice, and he brought the sacrifice back in front of the angel. And when he did, the angel, fire flared up and it consumed the meat and the bread. And then the angel disappeared. And so Gideon knew at that moment that he had really seen the face of God through the angel. And so he was just like, whoa, what the heck just happened? And so God then gave him the instruction to go and tear down the altar of Baal, and then also to cut down the poles of Asherah, right? Those were idols that people were worshiping. And because Gideon was afraid, he went and he did it at night. And when everybody woke up the next morning, people was after him, right? They figured out that Gideon was the one who did it. And so they went to Gideon's dad and was like, we need to kill your son. And Gideon's dad was like, nah, if he is a god, if Baal is a god, then he could, take care of himself. So they didn't end up, killing Gideon. So then Gideon is like, okay, God has called me to fight. He said that he's going to lead the Midianites into my hand, right? So he put God to the test. He said, okay. He said, if you can just make the dew fall on the fleece and let the ground be dry, then that'll be a sign to me. So the next night, God did it. Or that night, God did it. So then he said, God, don't be angry with me. But if you could make the ground have the dew and the fleece be dry, then, I'm really going to know that it's you. And so God did that also for him. So then Gideon gathers up the army, right? Because again, the Israelites were so oppressed by the Midianites, so much so that they could not plant, they couldn't grow anything. Like anything that the Israelites had within their hands, the Midianites was taking it like ASAP, right? I'm going somewhere with this, y'all, so stay with me. So then Gideon gathered up the army, and it was 32,000 men, okay? 32,000 men in this army. And so God said, no, that's too much. That's too many men. And so he said, the ones who are in fear, tell them all that they can go back. And so Gideon did, and 22,000 men left, which only left 10,000 men. So the Lord said, that's still too much. He said, I want you to tell them, call them down to the river, tell them that they can go get a drink of water. And he said that there's going to be some that's going to lap the water like dogs, and there's going to be some that's going to kneel. And so Gideon, he said, I'm going to tell you which ones that you need to keep with you. And so basically what he ended up doing was keeping the ones that lapped the water like a dog, which was only 300 of the 10,000. So that means 9,700 had to also go back home. So out of 32,000 men, the Lord only left Gideon with 300. So I want to say something about that. A lot of us feel like in order for us to be successful in what we're doing, we have to have all of these people around us, right? We've got to try to get into positions of influence, and we have to be around people, that are shaking and jiving and moving, in whatever industry that we're in. God does not need those people unless he appointed those people to be your helpers in your season. God does not need those people. You would think that for an army as vast as the Midianites, that Gideon would need as many people as possible. But the Lord reduced it from 32,000 to 300. Now, when they were describing the Midianites, they described the Midianites as being as vast as locusts, that their camels was you can't even number them. It was as mighty as many as the sand. So that means that the Midianites, their army was strong. They had the people, they had the camels, they had everything that they needed to defeat Gideon and his army, but the Lord. So then let me say this. So as the Lord allowed him to take his 300 men, Gideon went up to, lay in his camp. And during the night, in the midnight hour, during the night, it says that the Lord called Gideon. He said, Gideon, go up, go against the camp, because I'm going to give it into your hands. He said, but if you are afraid to attack, take your servant with you. And he said, and when you hear what's being said, you're going to be encouraged to attack. So the Lord already knew that Gideon was going to be afraid. So he said, when you go down, take your servant with you. And when you take your servant with you, he said, and what you hear, you are going to be encouraged to attack. And what did he hear? He came down just in time. See, the Lord is strategic. He got down in that camp, in the enemy's camp, and just in time, he heard a dream from one of the men that was there, talking about how a big barley wheat bread was, he had a dream that bread was going to roll down into their camp with such force that it was going to collapse the tent. And somebody that was sitting next to him interpreted the dream. And this person interpreted the dream and said that means that God is going to give the Midianites into Gideon's hands. And when Gideon heard that, he was encouraged. That's all he needed. Now, remember, I told you that Gideon had already asked the Lord to confirm for him several times that this was what he was calling him to do. And I thought that it was just like the Lord, that the Lord allowed the enemy to confirm his victory. Who he heard those dreams from was the opposite side. And when he heard those dreams was an encouragement for him to go against that army and attack. But let me tell you, even better is that once Gideon started to get his army together and they got their trumpets and they got their glasses with the torches in their hands, you would have think that they would have had swords, or they would have had some type of, shields, or they would have had a whole suit of armor. They would have had, whatever they needed to defeat this army, to go and kill them. But they did not need that. The Lord gave divine instruction. So much so that when Gideon and his army yelled out and broke their glasses and sounded their trumpets, the Midianites went into confusion and started to fight each other. And they started to run because they were in a panic. The Lord allowed confusion to come into the enemy's camp on Gideon's behalf. So they did not have to formally or traditionally fight the Midianites. The Midianites fought themselves. The Lord set Gideon's army up to win. And when the Lord first came and told Gideon to go ahead and basically fight against the Midianites, say we get the Midianites into his hand, he said it will be as if it is one man. It will be as if you are fighting one man. Gideon did not feel that he had it in him, but the Lord said, go in the strength that you have. And by Gideon being obedient to what the Lord said, yes, he asked for confirmation, and he asked for confirmation several times before he just took that leap of faith. And even in his last moment before he attacked the Midianites, he still took a leap of faith by going down there when the Lord told him to go down there and listen to what they were saying. And the Lord allowed the enemy to confirm Gideon's victory. So I just want to tell you is that you have the victory. It is in you. Gideon didn't feel like he had it in him. He felt like his tribe was the weakest. But God said, I want to use you, Gideon. You are a mighty warrior. And yes, Gideon was afraid. Yes, Gideon felt that he was weak. But that didn't stop the Lord from using him. Yes, he asked for confirmation several times. But that didn't stop the Lord from using him. So I know that some of us on this journey, you may be questioning your worth. You may be questioning if the Lord told you to do what he told you to do. You may be questioning, what it is that you're doing. Maybe you're not seeing the success that you want. Maybe people have come against you because they felt that you were doing something that wasn't worth it. Right? Or you were following God and you looked crazy, or you yourself just feel insecure. You feel insecure about speaking the word of God. You feel insecure about writing a book. You feel insecure about building a business. You feel insecure about getting on the camera. You feel insecure about letting people into what's going on with you. You feel insecure. But the Lord is telling you today, go in the strength that you have. You have the victory. You got what it takes. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be all lined up. It doesn't have to be perfect. See, Gideon didn't have the perfect circumstance. He went from 32,000 men to 300 men for an army that was vast, that couldn't even be numbered. An army that was strong, an army that was brutal. They was whipping up on the Israelites. The Israelites was going out into caves to get away from them. That's how much they were oppressing them. The Lord is saying, don't let anything stop you. He's saying, go in the strength that you have, even when it's not perfect, even when you don't have it together, even when you don't have the setup, even when you don't have the camera, even when you don't have the glamorous life, even when you feel like you don't have anything to say. Follow the Lord's instruction. That's what Gideon did. Gideon didn't feel that he could defeat the Midianites, but he went on the Lord's command. I'm telling you, go on the Lord's command. Don't give up, because Satan will make you feel like you are unworthy. But see, Satan already know that you have the victory. It's already been confirmed. But see, the problem with Gideon was that he didn't just need to know it from the Lord. He needed to know it himself. He needed to know it himself. And when he finally got that courage, he finally got that strength from the dream and the interpretation from those men, then that's when he said, okay, I can do this. And he did it, and they didn't even have to defeat the Midianites with traditional measures. So when you do things God's way, you think that you might, have to do this, or you have to, do a certain thing for a long time, or you don't want to post, or what have you. All of these things that you think is going to happen or is going to take you a long time to do. It didn't take Gideon a long time. When God called Gideon to defeat the Midianites, it did not take a long time till it was put into action. And Gideon had a lot of things going, after him. He had people wanting to kill him for the instruction of God. He had an army that was great, and then it was reduced to 300. And the Lord knew that he was afraid. That's why he said, if you are afraid, take your servant. And I promise you that when you get where you're going, with what you hear, you're going to be encouraged to attack. But in order for Gideon to be encouraged, he had to be obedient. He had to be obedient to the divine instruction of the Lord. That instruction of holding trumpets and glass with torches in it, that sounded crazy when you go into an army who outnumbers you. But the instruction was divine, because Gideon did not know that with him being obedient to the Lord was going to allow the Midianites to turn on themselves. But he would have never known that if he wouldn't have been obedient. So I am encouraging you, be obedient to the Lord. One of the things that the Lord told me is he told me that you stopped doing hard things. Because it is not easy. It's not easy to get up and talk. It's not easy to, when you don't see any growth, or you don't see, anything popping out the charts, or your business is not, you ain't rich yet, what have you, right? You got all these things in your mind about what these results of what the Lord told you to do should bring in due time. But one of the things that the Lord told me personally, he said that you stopped doing the hard things. You started to make decisions where it was easier for you, but you stopped challenging yourself. And I want you to challenge yourself. So whatever it is that you have stopped doing, start again. As long as you are living, you still have the opportunity. Gideon didn't think he had it in him, but he was victorious. You might not think that you have it in you, but you will be victorious. You are victorious. And even the enemy knows it. That's why he's trying to stop you. So don't let him stop you. Keep going. Keep starting over. Keep being obedient. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. So that's all I have for you tonight. I just wanted to encourage you that you got it in you. You have got the victory. Now go out and win your battle.